Hi everyone, it's Miss Karen. We are going to be reading Hans Christian Andersen. We're working on the letter U, and today we're going to read The Ugly Duckling. So, one fine summer day, next to a quiet pond, a mother duck sat on her nest. She had been sitting there a long time and was getting tired. Then the eggs began to hatch. Crack! They went one after the other. All the little ducklings poked their heads out. The mother duck was delighted. But then she saw that one egg had not hatched. It was a very odd-looking egg. It was gray and much larger than the others. "That's not a duck egg at all," the other ducklings cried wide away when they saw it. "It's a turkey egg." "You have been tricked. Just leave it. There's no point in sitting on an egg like that." But the mother duck said that she had been sitting on the egg for so long that she might as well wait a little longer. So she sat very still, and at last the egg slowly began to crack open. Out tumbled the last little duckling. But what a strange duckling he was! He was twice as big as the others, and he was not a pretty yellow color, but a dirty gray all over. "How ugly he is!" all the ducklings cried, but the mother quickly hushed them up. "I don't think he's so ugly," she said. "And look," she cried, watching as the ugly duckling went splashing into the pond, "he certainly knows how to swim." The other ducks in the duckyard stared at the ugly duckling. It was true that he was a good swimmer, but he was still the ugliest duckling they had ever seen. Soon everyone in the duckyard made fun of him. His brothers and his sisters bit him and pushed him when their mother wasn't looking. The older ducks ignored him, and the younger ones kicked at him and pecked at him whenever he came close. "If only the cat would catch you and eat you up," his brothers and sisters cried. At last, even his mother grew tired of defending him. "If only I had never set eyes on you," she sighed. "Everyone hates me because I'm so ugly," the poor little ugly duckling whispered to himself. And he decided to leave the duckyard and go out into the big world. Soon he came across some wild geese. One stared at him curiously. "You are very ugly," he said, "but you seem harmless enough," and they invited him to come live with them in their home in the marsh. The ugly duckling happily agreed. But as soon as they reached the marsh, some hunters came and shot at the wild geese with their guns. They all fell down dead, staining the marsh water red as blood. The ugly duckling hid in terror. Oh, a pack of dogs came running through the grass, but they paid no attention to him. "I'm too ugly for them to even bite," the ugly duckling thought sadly. Then he fled into the woods. When night fell, he came to a little cottage. An old woman lived there with a big gray cat and a red hen. The hen laid fresh eggs every morning. The old woman's eyes were not very good, and when she saw the ugly duckling, she thought that he was a big fat duck who had escaped from the duckyard. "Now, I have fresh duck eggs every morning," she said happily, "and so you're welcome." The ugly duckling inside. The cat and the hen studied their visitor curiously. Soon. "You are very ugly," chuckled the hen disapprovingly. "Can you really lay eggs?" The duckling shook his head shyly. "No." "Can you arch your back and purr?" said the cat. The ugly duckling shook his head again. "Then what are you good at?" said the cat. "What good, indeed!" cried the hen. With that, they turned their backs on the ugly duckling. After that, the big gray cat scratched him, and the hen pecked him, and the old woman found out that he couldn't lay eggs. She kicked him with her big heavy boots, so the ugly duckling set out again. It was autumn, and the leaves fell from the trees. Now the ugly duckling was all done. During the day he swam in rivers and lakes. At night he slept among the grasses. Winter came, and all the lakes froze over. Because the ugly duckling could no longer swim, he passed his days staring up at the sky. One evening he saw flying above him the most beautiful birds he had ever seen. They were pure white with long waving necks. As they flew, they made an odd sound, a piercing cry that filled the ugly duckling with a strange joy. He stared up at the beautiful birds for as long as he could, but they soon vanished, for they were swans flying south for the winter. It grew colder and snow fell. The ugly duckling hid in the tall grass and saw no one. Often he thought of the great white birds he had seen flying south. Such beautiful creatures must surely be happy. It would be too sad to tell of all the hardships the ugly duckling suffered during that long, hard winter. Many times he almost died of the cold. One day a pheasant found him lying frozen stiff on the ice. The pheasant took him home, but when his children saw the ugly creature, they burst out laughing and chased him away again. But one day the sun began to shine warmly. Birds sang in the trees, and the hedges sprouted tiny new green leaves. Spring had come. The ugly duckling stretched his wings. To his surprise, he found they were much stronger than before. He flapped and he flapped until he rose high in the air. Soon he came to a beautiful green garden. In front of him was a sparkling blue lake. There, coming towards him across the water, were 3 swans. When the ugly duckling saw the proud birds, he felt his heart would break. "I will swim toward them," he said to himself. "They will surely kill me because I am so ugly. But better to be killed by these beautiful creatures than endlessly pecked by birds and hens and hated by everyone." The ugly duckling swam slowly toward the great swans. When he drew near them, he bent his head and waited for their attack, for he was sure to die. But when the swans reached the ugly duckling, they only circled around him welcomely. And, looking down into the still water, the ugly duckling suddenly saw his own reflection. He was no longer gray and ugly, but he had a long, graceful neck like others, and feathers of pure white. The ugly duckling had grown into a beautiful swan. Some little children came running to the edge of the lake. "Look!" they cried, pointing to the swans. "That's a new one! Why, he's the prettiest of all!" When he heard them, the new swan When he heard them, the new swan became quite shy, and he hid his head under his wing. The children's praise did not make him proud. He had a good heart, and remembered how everyone had once scorned him. "How lucky I am," he thought to himself, "and to think I never dreamed I would be so happy when I was the ugly duckling." The end.